The city of Zürich stirred awake beneath a pale golden sky. Trams hummed softly along the tracks, their bells echoing across narrow cobblestone streets still damp from last night's drizzle. Jonas unlocked the small wooden door of his family's bakery, the scent of flour and yeast clinging to his apron. He stacked fresh loaves neatly in the front window, a ritual that grounded him each morning. Though his movements were steady, his mind wandered. Life in the bakery was predictable, almost too quiet. The warmth of the ovens filled the air, yet a trace of restlessness lingered inside him. Each day felt like the last, and he wondered whether there was something waiting for him beyond these familiar streets. Meanwhile, across town, Mia adjusted her satchel as she left her university dormitory. The river Limmat glistened under the early sun as she crossed the bridge, her breath visible in the crisp air. Books weighed heavily on her shoulders, reminders of exams and endless assignments. Yet beneath her focus and determination, there was a longing for a pause, a breath, a moment that felt truly alive. Neither of them knew that their paths were about to converge once more. Time had carried them into separate worlds, but Zürich had a way of drawing old stories back to the surface. And this morning carried the quiet promise of a meeting neither of them expected. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows along Bahnhofstrasse, where shoppers hurried past glittering displays. Jonas left the bakery after a long shift, his hands still dusted with flour. He did not expect to stop, yet the window of a nearby cafe caught his eye. Inside, a familiar figure sat by the window, her head bent over an open book.
Mia.
Her hair fell loosely across her shoulders, her fingers tracing the edges of the page. Jonas stood frozen, the years between them rushing back all at once. He hesitated, then stepped inside. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and warm cinnamon. Mia looked up, startled for a moment, then broke into a smile that carried a touch of disbelief. "Jonas," she whispered, as though saying his name might shatter the quiet moment. And just like that, time folded. The noise of the cafe dimmed. Two lives, once separated, found themselves face to face again, caught between surprise and the weight of everything left unsaid. They sat across from each other, the small table holding 2 cups of steaming coffee. The first few minutes passed with polite questions, the kind strangers might share. How long had it been? Where had life carried them? Jonas spoke of the bakery, how his family depended on him to keep the ovens burning. Mia shared stories of lectures, exams, and the endless pursuit of a degree that seemed just out of reach. But beneath their words lay memories, unspoken yet alive. They recalled nights spent by the river, the laughter of youth, the promises once whispered. Though neither spoke of the past directly, it lingered like the scent of roasted beans, impossible to ignore. Mia laughed softly at a memory that slipped between them, and Jonas felt something stir in his chest. The comfort of old friendship, the ache of something more. Neither dared to name it, not yet. When evening settled, they left the cafe together. Zürich glowed under lanterns and neon lights, reflections shimmering on wet pavements. Trams rattled past, their windows filled with tired faces returning home. They walked side by side, speaking of everything and nothing. The city seemed to belong only to them, each corner holding echoes of a past they thought forgotten. Jonas noticed how Mia tilted her head back to look at the night sky, as though searching for constellations hidden by the glow of the city. She seemed unchanged, yet stronger, her presence both familiar and new. At the riverbank, they paused. The water moved quietly under the bridges, carrying secrets through the heart of the city. Jonas wanted to speak, to tell her of the emptiness that had followed him all these years, but the words caught in his throat. Silence filled the space, heavy yet tender, as if the river itself listened. Days turned into weeks, and their meetings grew frequent. Sometimes they shared lunch in quiet corners of the university. Other times Jonas brought fresh bread from the bakery, and Mia would tease him about the flour on his sleeves. Yet behind the laughter lay questions neither dared to voice. Jonas felt the weight of duty pulling him back to the bakery, to his family who relied on him. Mia faced her own path, one leading to lectures, research, and perhaps a career that might take her far beyond Zürich. Every glance held unspoken tension, every pause between words carried possibility. They both sensed the crossroads drawing closer. And still, they clung to the small comfort of the present, afraid to disturb the fragile balance they had rediscovered. One rainy afternoon, Jonas searched through the old cupboards at the bakery, looking for spare ledgers. Instead, he found a folded envelope tucked between forgotten papers. His name written in familiar handwriting. The letter was from years ago, from Mia. She had written to him before leaving for university, confessing words he had never received. Words that spoke of feelings deeper than friendship, of a bond she had wished to protect. Jonas stared at the faded ink, his hands trembling. The bakery had kept its secrets, and now the truth surfaced too late. He wondered whether to tell her, whether the past could still matter. The rain outside blurred the streets, but inside his chest, something burned bright and fierce. The next evening, Jonas met Mia beneath the gray skies of Zürich. The rain fell steadily, soaking their coats as they walked without umbrellas. The city glistened, reflections dancing beneath the street lamps. He wanted to tell her about the letter, yet the words tangled in his throat. Mia spoke of her studies, of an opportunity that might soon take her abroad. Jonas listened, his heart tightening with each step. The rain blurred everything but her face. For a moment, he thought of reaching for her hand, of pulling her close. But he hesitated, afraid of breaking the delicate rhythm they had found. So he remained silent, the letter heavy in his pocket, waiting for the right moment that never seemed to come. Winter crept into Zürich. Snow dusted the rooftops, and the river moved sluggishly beneath sheets of ice. Inside the bakery, warmth radiated from the ovens, but Jonas felt only the chill of uncertainty. Mia had received her letter of acceptance. A research program in Geneva, far from the narrow streets where their story had begun again. She told him one evening over coffee, her voice calm yet her eyes searching his face for something she could not name. Jonas smiled, congratulating her, though the words cut deep. He wanted to speak of the letter he had found, to lay bare the truth of what she once felt, of what he still felt now. But fear gripped him, fear of changing everything. The city outside bustled with holiday lights, but within Jonas, a storm raged quietly, pressing him towards a choice that could no longer be avoided. The snow fell heavily that night. Streets grew quiet, muffled by white. Jonas walked quickly through the storm, the old letter clutched in his hand. He knew where to find her, in the cafe where it had all begun. Mia sat alone at the window, watching the snow drift past the glass. When Jonas entered, his coat dusted in frost, she looked up with surprise. He placed the envelope on the table between them, his voice low but steady. "This never reached me. I found it yesterday." Mia's hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. Her eyes moved across the words she had once written, words she had buried long ago. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the storm outside. Jonas leaned forward, his breath unsteady. "I never stopped feeling the same." Her eyes lifted to meet his, glistening with unspoken emotions. The cafe around them seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them, caught in a moment that could change everything. Later that night, they walked together to the river. Snow still fell, covering the city in a hushed silence. Lanterns cast soft circles of light on the frozen water, shadows stretching long and thin. They stopped at the bridge where they had once stood months earlier. The letter remained in Mia's hand, damp from melted snow. She looked at Jonas, her breath misting in the cold. The city around them seemed to hold its breath. The river moved slowly beneath, carrying the weight of time and memory. Jonas reached for her hand, finally breaking the silence that had kept them apart. The night held no answers, only the certainty of this moment. Together, they stood at the edge of the river, hearts unspoken yet understood, as Zürich slept quietly under the falling snow.